A drone strike destroyed one Tu-95 MS bomber and two Su-35S fighters at Olenya Air Base. On January 28th, a coordinated drone strike hit the Olenya base. The attack destroyed a Tu-95 MS strategic bomber and two Su-35S fighter jets on the ground. Estimated losses exceed $2 billion, severely disrupting Russia's long-range strike capability. Beyond immediate damage, the operation forced structural changes in airbase security and exposed deep vulnerabilities far from the battlefield. Stay with this video because the real impact began after the explosions stopped. In modern warfare, the most dangerous attacks do not always come from the front line. Some of the heaviest strikes are launched far from the battlefield, long before any ground forces make contact. Over recent months, Ukraine has repeatedly come under long-range air attacks using Kh-101 and Kh-555 cruise missiles. These weapons target power grids, heating plants, logistics depots, and industrial facilities across the country. The launch points for these missiles are not near Ukrainian territory. They originate deep inside Russia. The platform responsible for these strikes is the Tu-95 MS strategic bomber. Operating thousands of kilometers from the front, these aircraft remain completely outside Ukrainian airspace. From regions such as Saratov or the Caspian Sea, Tu-95 MS bombers release cruise missiles with ranges exceeding 2,000 kilometers. This creates a severe operational imbalance. Ukraine cannot engage the bombers directly, and once the missiles are airborne, interception becomes difficult, expensive, and uncertain. This reality forces a strategic shift. The central question is no longer how to intercept incoming missiles, but how to stop their launch altogether. If the Tu-95 MS is the, quote, shooter, then the airbase is the true source of danger. Protecting those bombers on the ground and in the air are Su-35S fighter jets, forming the outer shield of the long-range strike system. From this moment, Ukraine begins to view the battlefield from a different angle. The Tu-95 MS is one of the oldest strategic bombers still active in modern warfare. Designed during the Cold War, it remains in service not for speed or stealth, but for its reach and payload. The aircraft is powered by Nk-12 turboprop engines. This is the most powerful propeller-driven system ever placed on a military bomber. This configuration allows the Tu-95 MS to stay airborne for more than 12 hours and operate at ranges exceeding 12,000 kilometers. While outdated by modern standards, this endurance gives it a role no tactical aircraft can replace. In the war against Ukraine, the Tu-95 MS functions as a long-range missile launch platform. It does not approach the battlefield. Instead, it operates from secured airspace over regions such as Engels, Saratov, or the Caspian Sea. Its primary weapons are Kh-101 and Kh-555 cruise missiles, each capable of flying over 2,000 kilometers. These missiles carry heavy warheads and maintain high strike accuracy, allowing attacks on energy infrastructure and industrial sites. A single Tu-95 MS can carry between 6 and 8 cruise missiles. One sortie alone can generate damage across multiple cities, turning one aircraft into a strategic level threat. However, this power comes with critical weaknesses. The bomber is massive, slow, and highly visible. On the ground, they are usually parked in open areas with limited hardened shelters. Any damage to its wings, engines, or fuel systems can ground the aircraft for months. Because of this vulnerability, the aircraft cannot operate alone. Its survival depends entirely on the protection built around it. The primary aircraft designed to protect the Tu-95 MS is the Su-35S fighter jet. Classified as a 4++ generation platform, it serves as the main air defense layer around strategic bomber bases. The Su-35S is equipped with the Irbis E radar, capable of detecting large aerial targets at long range. This system allows early identification of approaching unmanned platforms before they reach sensitive zones near the airfield. Its core mission is not offensive air combat. Instead, the Su-35S is tasked with escort duties during Tu-95 MS takeoff and landing. It also performs continuous patrols and intercepts long-range reconnaissance drones. For these missions, The fighter carries R-77 air-to-air missiles, R-73 short-range missiles, and the internal GSH-30 cannon. This combination enables rapid engagement against slow-moving or low-altitude targets. The aircraft plays a critical role in denying Ukraine the ability to collect accurate coordinates. By destroying surveillance drones, the Su-35S disrupts real-time intelligence used for strike planning. However, this protection is not absolute. The Su-35S cannot remain airborne continuously. It requires refueling, maintenance, and crew rotation. Its radar coverage is directional, not constant in every sector. These limitations create gaps in time that Ukraine has begun to notice. Ukraine understands that direct confrontation is impossible. It cannot challenge Russian strategic aviation in the air, nor can it match the scale of long-range strike platforms. Instead, Ukrainian planners shift their focus toward efficiency rather than force. The objective is not to shoot down bombers during flight, but to strike them when they are stationary. This approach marks a fundamental change. Ukraine stops viewing the Tu-95 MS as an isolated aircraft and begins treating it as part of a larger operational system. That system includes fuel storage, maintenance zones, ground radar, and fixed airfield infrastructure. At this stage, intelligence confirms a critical detail. 3 key aircraft, 1 Tu-95 MS and 2 Su-35S fighters, are operating from Olenya Air Base. This concentration creates both protection and vulnerability. From Ukraine's perspective, this is not 3 separate targets, but one interconnected structure. Damaging any major element would affect the entire operational cycle. Ukrainian planners identify the logic clearly. Destroying aircraft in the air is unrealistic, but disrupting their ability to launch is achievable. Airfields cannot move. Fuel depots cannot relocate quickly. Maintenance assets remain exposed for long periods. This leads to a simple calculation. A limited strike, if placed correctly, could halt multiple sorties without needing total destruction. At this point, the focus turns toward selecting the most cost-effective weapon available. For Ukraine, the solution lies in simplicity, speed, and numbers. The chosen tool is the FPV suicide drone. Unlike large unmanned systems, FPV drones are cheap, mass-produced, and easy to modify. Their low price allows them to be launched in waves without strategic risk. Losing one unit has almost no financial impact, while a successful hit can produce long-term operational damage. Technically, these drones operate at extremely low altitudes, often below 30 meters. Flying close to terrain enables them to avoid detection by standard air defense radar. Their small radar signature further reduces interception probability. Guidance is conducted through a live video feed, allowing operators to manually adjust course during the final approach. This makes FPV drones effective even against stationary targets protected by layered defenses. Multiple warhead types are used depending on mission priority. These include penetration charges, thermobaric payloads, and light anti-structure explosives. The goal is not full destruction, but functional damage. Target selection is precise. Engines, fuel connections, and maintenance sections are prioritized. Even minor impact in these areas can ground an aircraft for months. At approximately 4:30 a.m., conditions favor such an attack. Visibility is limited, alert levels are low, and ground crews are reduced. One successful strike does not need to destroy a bomber. It only needs to stop it from flying. This is where the cost imbalance becomes decisive. A drone worth hundreds of dollars can disable assets valued in the hundreds of millions. At this point, Ukraine is no longer preparing to challenge aircraft. It is preparing to paralyze operations. The operation is not designed as a single strike. It is built as a sequence of coordinated phases, each serving a specific purpose. The first phase focuses on reconnaissance. Long-range UAVs and satellite imagery are used to monitor daily activity at Olenya Air Base. Flight schedules and ground movements are analyzed to determine when aircraft are most exposed. The second phase introduces disruption. Decoy drones and electronic interference are deployed to draw attention away from the main routes. This forces Su-35S patrol aircraft to launch at unfavorable times, stretching their coverage. The third phase is the primary strike. FPV drones approach at very low altitude from multiple directions to avoid detection. The timing is chosen during early morning hours when alert levels are minimal. The fourth phase targets supporting infrastructure. Fuel storage units and ground radar elements are selected as secondary objectives. Damage in these areas slows repair efforts and disrupts sortie preparation. The final goal is operational paralysis. If the runway is intact but fuel systems fail, aircraft cannot launch. If maintenance areas are damaged, flight readiness collapses. By striking one airfield, Ukraine aims to interrupt all three aircraft simultaneously, not by overwhelming force, but by precise pressure applied at multiple points. The system breaks before the aircraft ever leave the ground. At approximately 4:47 a.m., the operation enters its decisive phase. Multiple FPV drones descend toward Olenya Air Base, flying below radar coverage. Within seconds, visual contact is established through onboard cameras. The targets are stationary, exposed, and fully identifiable. The first drones strike the Tu-95 MS parked on open aprons. One impacts near the engine section, triggering fuel ignition and secondary fires. Additional units hit maintenance zones close to the Su-35 fighters, causing explosions that spread to nearby equipment. The response is immediate but uncoordinated. Air defense systems begin firing in confusion without clear target separation. Tracers cross the sky, but the low altitude of the drones limits interception success. Ground personnel react under pressure without centralized control. Communication between radar operators and base command becomes fragmented. The damage extends beyond visible flames. Power lines are severed and fuel connections are ruptured. Repair crews are forced to withdraw as secondary detonations occur. The key outcome is the effect on operations. Flight preparation halts instantly. Aircraft that remain intact cannot taxi, refuel, or receive clearance. Within minutes, Olenya Air Base loses its ability to function as a launch platform. The strike renders the system unusable at the moment it matters most. The damage is not limited to visible destruction. Each Tu-95 MS represents an asset valued at approximately $100 to $120 million. Unlike modern fighters, these bombers cannot be quickly replaced. Production lines were shut down decades ago, making every loss permanent. Repair operations introduce further strain, as specialized components require months to restore. A single damaged engine or structural section can ground the aircraft for half a year or longer. The two Su-35 fighters, worth $65 to $70 million each, face similar challenges. Advanced avionics and radar modules cannot be repaired with standard field equipment. Beyond material losses, the personnel impact is severe. Strategic bomber crews are among the rarest assets in the Russian Air Force. Training one full Tu-95 MS crew can take 5 to 7 years, with costs exceeding $10 million per team. When aircraft are grounded, experienced pilots sit idle and sortie planning collapses. The true loss is measured not in burned metal, but in time. And time cannot be rebuilt. The impact of the strike extends far beyond a single airbase. Following the incident, Russian command is forced to reassess the security of its long-range aviation network. Strategic bombers are no longer safe simply because they are far from the front line. To reduce exposure, aircraft are relocated deeper into Russian territory. This increases flight distance, fuel consumption, and mission preparation time. Every additional kilometer weakens response speed and limits flexibility. At the same time, air defense assets are redeployed inward. Missile systems and radar units, once positioned near Ukraine, are now reassigned to protect domestic airfields. This redistribution reduces coverage along the front and stretches available resources. The effect is immediate. Fewer bombers are ready for launch, and strike frequency declines. For Ukraine, the result is strategic rather than tactical. Russia is compelled to spend resources defending its own rear areas instead of projecting power forward. The battlefield begins to shift. Long-range aviation, once a tool of pressure, becomes a liability requiring constant protection. From this point onward, Russia is no longer shaping the tempo alone. It is reacting. and reaction in modern warfare is the first step toward losing the initiative. The events at Olenya Air Base highlight a fundamental reality. Victory is no longer determined by who possesses the largest aircraft or longest range missiles. Strategic systems today depend on networks, logistics, and layered protection. When one element fails, the entire structure begins to weaken. While individual aircraft losses were significant, the broader impact is far greater. Disrupted sorties and emergency redeployments generate cumulative costs estimated at $2 to $3 billion. This includes extended repairs and the loss of operational tempo across the entire force. The Tu-95MS and Su-35S remain powerful on paper, but their effectiveness depends on stability behind the front. The FPV drone, inexpensive and disposable, has exposed a new imbalance. In this conflict, strength is no longer defined by size. It is defined by vulnerability. Those who identify weak points first now shape the future battlefield. Modern war is decided by precision, timing, and understanding how systems truly function. A single weak point, when identified correctly, can reshape outcomes far beyond the battlefield itself. If you found this analysis useful, support the channel by leaving a like and subscribing. Your engagement helps bring clear insight into how today's conflicts are really fought. Stay alert, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next breakdown.